Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us here today. Here with me on stage, of course, are Mayor of Boston, Mayor Marty Walsh, who you'll hear from in just a moment, along with Julie Abramovich, who is VP of Software at IBM Corporation, Bob Rivers, Chairman and CEO of Eastern Bank, Sherry Jimenez, survivor and founder of the Eva Center, Lisa Goldblatt-Grace, Executive Director of My Life, My Choice. In addition, I want to thank my human trafficking team, especially Chief Beth Keeley and Sindhu Katarishan, as well as our wonderful partners who have all worked so hard to make today possible. In particular, I want to thank members, leaders of various business organizations, including Jesse Mermel from the Alliance for Business Leadership, J.D. Cheslaw from the Massachusetts Business Roundtable, and Jim Rooney from the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. We're here for one reason today, and that is to help end the exploitation of people in Massachusetts. My office has made addressing human trafficking a top priority. Over the last few years, we've charged over 40 people with sex trafficking. That's just since the time this human trafficking law was passed. We're going after real criminals here, pimps and traffickers who prey on the vulnerabilities of others and make money by exploiting them in the worst possible way. We've also partnered with victim service providers like My Life, My Choice and the Eva Center, who are here today, who help us understand the survivor experience and better support survivors on their path to recovery. But we know that this crime continues to happen here in Boston and all across the state, right here in our own communities, in big cities and in small towns. And increasingly, of course, it's happening online. These victims have not chosen this path for themselves. Many of them are dealing with serious addiction issues, histories of domestic violence, sexual and physical abuse, childhood trauma. They are being kept there and exploited by pimps and traffickers. Now, just to give you some context, there are many misperceptions about human trafficking. It is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world. Many of the victims are children. In fact, the average age of entry into the life of human trafficking in Boston is 14 years old. They come from all over rural, urban, suburban towns. It's something that could happen to anyone. Now, as you can see on the boards next to us, in particular, you look at sex trafficking and the business sector. Research shows that sex buyers often look to buy during business hours using company equipment, computers, using vehicles that come through the company, Wi-Fi services, hotels. 1 in 4 business travelers, admits to buying sex while traveling. In the Boston area, at this very hour, this is the peak time for online searching to purchase sex, right in the middle of the workday. And many sex buyers have said they buy illegal sex while traveling for business purposes. Every month, 20,000 ads for commercial sex are posted online in Boston. There are over 9,000 searches for commercial sex every day in our city. When you do this work, you know that behind every statistic is someone's daughter, sister, mother. It's a victim who has suffered so much heartache and is experiencing so many vulnerabilities, who was tricked and absorbed into this life. And I think what this is about today is the recognition that we need to do more. We need to continue with the investigations and the prosecutions, but we also need to do a better job of raising awareness of this problem. And we also need more tools to combat this criminal industry. That's why we're here today. Because behind human trafficking is the demand to buy sex, to purchase sex. This is an industry that is driven by the simple economics of supply and demand. This industry is an industry that Mayor Walsh and I have long been committed to ending. 2 years ago, we joined together to announce zero-tolerance policies for soliciting and buying sex for our offices, the City of Boston and the Attorney General's offices. But that wasn't enough. Together, we went out to form a new coalition, and we're calling that coalition Employers Against Sex Trafficking. It's a coalition that's organized around business community members who believe in social responsibility and have committed to adopting practices to combat sex trafficking. We just finished a meeting upstairs with many of our business leaders and members who are joining this effort, and we're extremely proud to be able to announce today that as a result of this work, 23 companies in this room have committed to adopting similar zero-tolerance policies for their workplaces. These are policies that are directed at sex buying and the demand. As a result, we'll be able to spread awareness and get the word out to tens of thousands of employees across Boston. As a result of today, from now on, these businesses will be at the forefront of our efforts to end this crime and to protect victims and survivors from further abuse. They realize that the business community has a powerful role to play and an opportunity to help in reducing the demand for illegal sex. I want to thank all of our business leaders who are here today for taking a stand on this issue. For far too long, our society has treated sex trafficking as a victimless crime. But today, coming together in Boston and across Massachusetts, employers and the business community are joining forces to help us change that narrative. Together, we're declaring that buying sex exploits women and children and that it has no place in the workplace. That's what this is really all about. And again, I want to thank the employers, the business leaders who've come together to learn about this issue, to understand it, and together to take steps to end it. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to bring to the podium Mayor Marty Walsh, who has made this a top priority of his office as well.
Thank you, Maura. Thank you, General Healey, and I want to commend the Attorney General and her incredible office for the great work they've done in the last 2 years here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and continue to do every single day. I want to thank you and everyone here. I also want to thank the employers who signed up, and hopefully we can get more employers in our city and our Commonwealth to sign a pledge as well as we move forward here, which we will after today. Everyone, I'm not going to mention everyone on the stage because we'll be here all day, but on the dais, but everyone behind me has done so much work, particularly in the area of sex trafficking, whether it's education or advocacy work. I want to thank them all. And the advocates in the room here, the people in the room who do the work every single day, the law enforcement, Attorney General's office, the District Attorney's office, the advocates, thank you very much as well for all your great work here in the city. This is an important moment in the fight against sex trafficking and exploitation here in Massachusetts. As you saw, 23 of our leading employers are stepping up to say they want to be part of the solution. Zero tolerance is a no-brainer, but it's important to go on the record to take concrete steps. Otherwise, things can continue to go under the radar. A couple of facts that are important to know. One, we are not talking about a victimless crime. We're talking about an illegal industry where the average victim gets trafficked into trade as young as 10 years old. The average, as the general said earlier, the age is 14, but we have seen young girls be trafficked as young as 10. That may appear that the buyer to make choices, but it's usually victimizes and traumatizes the person. So when a young person gets abused like that, they're traumatized. And they're clearly someone who needs help. Two, a huge portion of the demand comes from the workplace. It comes from people with social power, white-collar men. We had a meeting a few minutes ago upstairs, and I was talking about people stereotypes saying that women that are being trafficked, you see them on an avenue or you see them on a street, you see them in the neighborhoods, but there's an awful lot of trafficking going on in our companies in the city of Boston. They're not just happening at places like small little inns on the side of the road, they're happening in our downtown hotels. And we need to continue to fight and push back. We need to continue to help educate and let people know. Sometimes it's important for us to make sure that we continue to move down this road. It's an honor for me to stand here today. As the mayor of the city of Boston, it's something that it's important for us to do, to step up and help the people, help the victims that are victims of these crimes that are happening throughout our city, throughout our company. The compact, throughout our state, I should say, the compact that we're talking about is saying our organizations will not be party to this abuse in any way, shape, or form. That's the commitment that our businesses are making right now. These are not our values. Our values are to be part of the solution, to drive down the demand, to help survivors get out of the situation, and help them rebuild their lives. That's the policy we've adopted in the city of Boston. It's a policy I'm proud of, and it's a policy that we will never back away from. We all have a role to play, and that includes the media that's here today. We have a role to play in this. So when you go back to your news stations, your newsrooms, please express what you've seen. Not just write the story about what you're talking about today, but also talk about what's happening in the newsrooms to make sure that exploitation is not happening in your newsrooms. I want to sincerely thank all the employers who have stepped forward to play their part today. And most importantly, I want to thank all the advocacy that's been going on in this issue long before I was the mayor, long before Maura Healey was the Attorney General. Some of the women on the stage were fighting this good fight. And we want you to know that we're with you today, and we're going to be with you every single step of the way. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now I invite Julie Abramovich, who is VP of Software at IBM Corporation.
Thank you. And thank you for the introduction, and thank you for your leadership, Attorney General Healey and Mayor Walsh, and for your leadership in this effort. At IBM, we are proud to stand with our fellow businesses and state leaders to help combat sex trafficking across the Commonwealth. In today's environment, where people of all ages are surrounded by technology and easy access to social media tools, we need to be more vigilant than ever to combat despicable crimes such as exploitation and trafficking. We need to tackle this challenge from all angles, which is why a collaborative effort such as this with businesses, government, and law enforcement that we're announcing today is so critical. At IBM, we've taken a strong stand against sex trafficking, much like my fellow colleagues here in the room. We have zero tolerance policy for this type of illicit behavior, and we make sure that every IBMer around the world who works for our company knows the strict policies against the exploitation of people here and across the globe. Because every person, no matter who they are, deserves to live and work in a safe environment. And it's not just within our own company that we've taken steps to fight sex trafficking and stop those who enable it. We've used our voice and our technological expertise to help eradicate sex trafficking more broadly across the country and the world. We're proud to have been one of the first tech companies to support and advocate for the Stop Enabling Sex Trafficking Act, otherwise known as SESTA, at the federal level in Congress, because we believe that internet shouldn't be a haven for terrible crimes. There can be a common sense measures and solutions such as SESTA that both protect innovation and also combat exploitation online. The legislation and the effort to get it enacted has roots right here in Massachusetts. It was because those in law enforcement, entertainment, business, and government advocated together, which resulted in that bill successfully passing in Congress earlier this year. And in under just 2 months since that legislation was signed into law, we've already seen bad actors prosecuted and websites shut down. That is a huge step forward. In addition to advocating for federal legislation, IBM provides time, talent, and technology to nonprofit organizations who work with law enforcement to help fight human trafficking for all forms of forced labor, including sex. These technologies help stakeholders gather, share, and analyze data and patterns. It connects the dots so that law enforcement, banks, and legal systems can be more successful. And we've convened data scientists and technological experts here and across the Atlantic to better examine and identify what measures can be taken to prevent and disrupt trafficking and keep vulnerable communities out of harm's way. Because we know these acts aren't confined to the United States only, a global challenge needs a global solution. With this announcement, together we're proving we're stronger, smarter, and more committed than ever to winning the fight against sex trafficking here in the Commonwealth. We're proud to join you in this effort and help bring justice to survivors of these horrible crimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia and IBM Corporation. I now introduce Bob Rivers, who is CEO of Eastern Bank.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come and speak today about this critically important issue. When Mayor Walsh first asked if I would join a task force he was putting together to better understand and develop initiatives to address the scourge of sex trafficking, I was taken aback. After all, what did I know about this issue? What could I possibly contribute to this discussion? What could I do about it? As it turns out, a lot. Extensive research has determined the following regarding the buyers of sex. The overwhelming majority are white males who are married and from upper and middle and upper socioeconomic backgrounds, with 59% of them married or with a steady, intimate partner. Sources describe sex buyers from a variety of employment sectors, with the majority from white-collar professions working in the surrounding community where the purchase took place. And as the Attorney General pointed out earlier, the bulk of this purchase activity happens at 2 p.m., right in the middle of the workday. In short, it sounds a lot like a demographic that I know a lot about. Sex trafficking is driven by the demand for it, and that demand is driven in many ways by those in the business community. As a result, we as business leaders, as employers, have a particular responsibility to help address among the most heart-wrenching of criminal activity, one which preys upon the most vulnerable in our society and where the victims represent 90% of those arrested for it. I commend Attorney General Healey and Mayor Walsh for their leadership in addressing this. We must join together as business leaders, government officials, and educators to increase awareness, create safe places for victims to come forward for help, and implement zero-tolerance policies in our own companies. Recognizing that buyers are the catalyst for all sex trafficking, Eastern Bank has a zero-tolerance policy for employees who engage in sex buying or other aspects of the exploitation of vulnerable individuals in sex trafficking. We are also committed to continuing our work with our many nonprofit partners to help victims and end this horrific practice. Many others in the business community have made similar commitments, and now we need all others to join us. Once again, if you don't think this has anything to do with you, I would implore you to think again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and Eastern Bank. I invite now Sherry Jimenez, survivor and founder of the IVA Center, to come forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So today is a huge step towards changing norms, men's ideas and behavior as it relates to buying sex, and a step in ending a harmful practice. Sex trafficking and prostitution, they're both intertwined. You can't end trafficking without addressing prostitution, and it's all about the demand. So I'm excited today to be part of Boston's community of male allies who are also realizing that their liberation is tied up with the liberation of survivors like myself and all the women that have come through our programs in the past 12 years. And we would not have our safe home, a much-needed safe home for 9 women and their children, if it wasn't for the mayor, the Attorney General's office, law enforcement, all the partners and many partners in this room. It's something that we all have to address together. And business leaders, they have such an important part and an important role to play in the movement towards women and women's equality. The efforts to ending the demand, we have come a long way in recognizing that learned behaviors and attitudes about buying individuals can be changed. This is what is needed to shut this down. And just because something's been around forever isn't a basis for its continuance. As long as we normalize the idea that some vulnerable women and girls can be ordered online, commodified like a product, equality will never happen. It's a very powerful thing to have control of someone's body, to buy someone. It's unacceptable. Abolishing sexual exploitation is certainly an incredibly complex, difficult mission. We at the EVA Center are on a mission to end this practice, but we need all of you. But today, I really feel like this is a huge step. And for someone like me, who was involved in exploitation, it was many years ago when none of us talked about it, for me to stand here today is a huge accomplishment for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry, and thank you for the great, tremendous work that you do at the center. And finally, I'd like to welcome Lisa Goldblatt-Grace, Executive Director of My Life, My Choice.
Thank you, Attorney General Healey and Mayor Walsh, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. I'm thrilled to be part of this movement to end demand for exploited people here in the Commonwealth. As a nation, we decided a long time ago it was not okay to buy and sell people, and yet this continues to happen in our communities. At My Life, My Choice, we directly serve young people who've been commercially sexually exploited, who've been trafficked throughout eastern Massachusetts, so from Worcester to the east. So up north in Lowell and Lynn and Lawrence and Beverly and Salem, and we have kids out on the Cape and every community in between. And as the Attorney General said, the average age of the girls that we serve, the average age that they enter the sex industry is 14 years old, middle school age. And if they do not receive support and find a path to safety and stability, they become adults trapped within the commercial sex industry without viable alternatives. The girls we care for are preyed upon by adults who capitalize on their vulnerabilities. But pimping is not what keeps this multi-billion-dollar industry in business. It is the demand for commercial sex that allows this industry to thrive. These same girls are bought by men who believe that their predatory desires trump human decency. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts is better than this. Thank you to Attorney General Healey and Mayor Walsh for your continued leadership on this issue, and for these pioneering businesses who are saying, "Not on my watch." These businesses who are saying there is no such thing as someone else's child. These businesses who are saying it is never okay to purchase a human being regardless of age or circumstances. Never. So on behalf of the girls that we serve, thank you.
Terrific. I want to invite questions at this time on this topic.